undertake the work. Seconded by Sam McDonald. Put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Next item, Ōtautahi Urban Guild Community Loan. Sam, you're happy to move that one?
I'll move it. I'm not happy to, but I will.
Right.
Move it. Yeah.
Yes. You're in the realistic position of having to face up to it. Yes. Right. And do I have a seconder for that? Phil, any questions? Any discussion?
I guess there is just one question.
Yeah.
It's probably more a John question. That's other John question.
Which John?
No, I guess yeah.
It's not you.
John, we've done your report.
Oh, have you?
It's been and gone.
Get with it, John.
No, I mean I guess the only thing is, obviously at the time of the loan, we looked at how we could enable things, and there have been things that have transpired that meant that couldn't proceed. I guess I had some concerns around the intangible asset value that sits in there, but I mean, as we've talked about, it's in terms of being realistic, it's sort of gone. Just going forward, I guess the applicants or the people involved in that, will there be a weighting, or will there be some consideration in future funding applications or loans, reflective of how this one didn't work?
Yeah, this learning and this experience will be noted in our files, and in the when we assess the merits of any loan application according to the individual application and the merits of that or not at the time, this sort of information, including past histories, track records, when have endeavours such as this worked before, groups and individuals involved, is all taken into consideration.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So there will be a process there to collect this information and to use it wisely into the future, Councillor.
And that's not a reflection on the council itself, because your initial advice was not to proceed, but we collectively want to take the punt. So, appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to move.
Right. And I've got a seconder for it. Yanni.
Yeah, just a follow-up question, I guess, in terms of Councillor McDonald's question is, why is there an urgency to write it off now rather than waiting for a greater duration of time? That would mean that it was recorded and kept on the records, so that if there were other things, they would be considered.
A number of reasons for that. I can go into some, and Leah may add to the others. It's absolutely abundantly clear from our interrogation of the situation that the recipients of the loan cannot pay it off. The enterprise has been wound up. There are no assets that can be realised for monetary value that will allow the council to recover their costs. There's no ability whatsoever that we can find to repay the loan. Leah, would you like to?
And I was just, John said, and if there's no ability to recover this debt, we need to write it off. They're two completely different matters of what you've actually raised. That to keep the loan there, so that we've got some history, is not relevant for the point of view of actually writing off this debt. If it cannot be recovered, it needs to be written off. As John has indicated, that the applicants of this or any further applicants going forward, this will all be taken into account.
But my understanding is, we do have a number of overdue debtors that are way outside this sort of time frame, like e.g. they've been a lot longer.
Time frame is only one attribute when you're considering whether debt can be repaid.
Yeah.
What we are saying to you is there is no ability for the council to recover this debt.
This was a community loan,
That's
and
right.
there were risks that were highlighted to us by staff at the time. In fact, the recommendation was not to approve the community loan. So it's just bringing us back to reality. Sam?
Yeah, just one final question. So just to be really clear, that if we didn't do it today, because there is no ability to recover it, our auditors would make it do us anyway, wouldn't they? If you take materiality out of it, they would consider it pretty bad practice to not reflect, or at least write down the provision come the end of the next financial year.
I can't comment on what the auditors would do. And
it's a pretty loaded question, because I basically know the answer. So,
yeah. But as I said, my advice to you is that you need to write this up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. I'll put that motion. Sorry? Oh, you want to speak to the motion?
Yeah,
Right, sorry.
just briefly, because I did support the initial motion for council, and you're right, Leanne, we were advised not to. I think the loan was about 400,000 at that point. Sorry? 450, yeah. So 180 of that, 183,600 to be not recoverable. So the thing is that it was a great opportunity, and I thought it was worth that risk to have a really sensitive community development there facing Latimer Square. That's not to be now, and I believe another property developer is doing something different there that's completely different than what the vision was, starting from that Breathe project, which was so exciting a few years ago. But, you know, we're in a position where we do have to take some gambles sometimes, informed ones, not reckless ones, and that's what I felt that I did at the time. It is sad that it hasn't proceeded, but that's the position we're in today. So I'll support writing off that today.
Sam?
Just really briefly, I mean, I share Pauline's sentiments, but the only reflection I'd make is that I recall at the time when we made it that, you know, the council did want to take a punt and see whether we could help enable that development to get something going. But what was really heartening was the protective mechanisms in the drawdown of the loan. So we've actually have protected, as opposed to transferring $450,000 on day one. This has been a staged process, and I think it's worth acknowledging John and Mary and the team for putting those protections in place, because this could have been a lot worse. But I think, still on balance, you know, it would have been good if this had proceeded, and you know, we do still want to be enabling. So I think those protections have actually helped the ratepayer. No one's happy about it, but in the end, I think, as Leah and Ed have pointed out, this would be written down regardless of whether we make the decision today or not. Purely from an accounting standards point of view, it's not recoverable, so we would be sitting something on the books that, if we didn't do it, we'd be forced to anyway.
Yeah. Yanni?
Yeah, I mean, I think on reflection, what's a real shame about this is the inability for central government to work with us and get what was a exemplar or a showcase development that addresses the issues of housing affordability in our city. And, you know, it just seems so sort of strange that just essentially, you know, what should have been a real positive, because the government, for whatever reason, didn't want to work around the land being sold to this group within timeframes. My understanding from the time was that they'd asked for an extension, and you know, if you reflect back with the property prices and market, you know, during COVID, at the start of COVID to where we are now, I'm sure there would have been demand for this sort of development in the central city. So it just seems like a bit of an own goal by central government as well, in terms of trying to address the issue of housing affordability, because I thought this project was innovative in trying to do that, and it's a real shame that it didn't go ahead. And I think far bigger forces than what council could control were at play in terms of the ability for central government to make this land available for a exemplar, showcase, innovative housing development. And it is good that we're working through the Urban Growth Partnership around housing innovation. I don't know how many councillors have read the report that went to the GCP committee, but it is an excellent report with a number of resolutions and actions, or recommendations and actions, that talks about taking a holistic approach to addressing housing affordability. And this sort of project would fit really brilliantly in with what some of those recommendations are. So it was a shame to see this fall over, and I do believe, you know, probably with the advice from staff, that this is the correct thing to do, but it is still incredibly disappointing.
Yeah. Aaron?
Yeah, at the time I did take the advice of the staff and voted against, along with Anne and James Daniels, who's no longer here. And I felt really bad doing it at the time, because I personally thought it didn't stack up, but I loved the concept. And it's admirable that you talk about housing affordability, and we can talk about it till we're blue in the face, but the numbers have to match the dream. And in this project, they didn't. And I remember at the time visiting a studio unit 100 metres away on the park, and it was under $200,000. And so to be building something that would be over double that price, and that took months to sell. So it just made no sense. So it was a case of, as much as we'd love to have it, it fell over, just like the Breathe ones did. Well, they took the wrong option. A local Simon, who you know, designed a really great one for Breathe and didn't win. And they went with someone overseas who never delivered. It's been a dog of a site, unfortunately, and it's in one of the best positions. So sadly, it didn't come true. And I think I said at the time I wanted to be proven wrong.
So I was reflecting earlier on that one of the early benefits of becoming the mayor in 2013 was to stand at the awards ceremony where the original project was announced. Kevin McLeod was one of the judges from Grand Designs, and it was actually quite an emotional occasion, because the people that won the competition, as it were, to develop the site were so excited about what it would mean for the city. I found a report on why the project failed, and I'll just read from it. The government was unwilling or unable to recognise that an insistence on a pure market approach would not deliver the innovative, sustainable village asked for in the competition brief, and failed to factor in the opportunity costs to government, local businesses and the wider Christchurch community of delaying by many years the residential development of the eastern side of the city. As a result, the early vision of the vitality that a thriving residential neighbourhood would bring to the city has not yet been realised. And that report, was sort of reflecting on the sort of emptiness of the site. Yes, it is being built now, but the opportunity, and I guess that's why I supported the funding going to the Ōtautahi Urban Guild, was just the hope that we could capture some of that, but it was not to be. And sometimes the financials that sit behind these projects are what stop